No.
No. Any declarations of interest?
Yes, only another. The Stocks Farm just at Muller is a client of Jonathan's wife Kate's. So it's a very distant one.
Significant.
And do I understand 20 Stocks Road we're not going to take? Because I would have a declaration for that as well. I'll do that next month.
Fine. As I've already said, the meeting is being recorded, so bear that in mind. Fine, we're now into the public session, so those who wish to speak in connection with any agenda items, now is your moment. Jonathan, I think you might like to say something about your planning application, might you?
Well, I don't have a great deal to say, John. I mean, I had an office in my outbuilding for the last 30 years. I've retired, and I just updated it because it had a new and a small kitchen in it before, and it's now got a sort of bathroom and kitchen, and we were looking to have the opportunity, if possible, to have an Airbnb there on occasions. It may be that we don't even get beyond the 90 days a year, which I think is the tipping point of when you need permission, but we're doing it as to preempt the fact that we might want to have an Airbnb in it where it was before it was just a farm and an architectural office. It would now be officially sort of annex accommodation and ancillary accommodation, I should say, sorry, and possibly an Airbnb. It hasn't changed the outward appearance of the building at all, as you'll see hopefully from the planning documentation, and that was the point of the application.
Do you run foul of the listed building issue?
We were told we didn't need a listed building application, it was just a change of use application. And we did originally submit a listed building application.
Sure. Fine, well, it'll come up on the agenda. Anybody else want to speak to any particular topic that we're going to discuss? Fine. Okay, we now move into the public session is over, so we move into the Parish Council meeting proper. The first item is to confirm the minutes of 11th March. This was the meeting chaired by Alan. Thank you, Alan, in my absence. You've all had a copy of the minutes.
Yeah.
Are you happy that I should sign them as a true record, or does Alan sign them as a true record?
No,
I'll sign.
The condition of the bottom, please. And then sign it.
Eighth of the 4th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. We've covered quite a lot of the items that will crop up. The Swan, as I mentioned, unfortunately, it's clear that the community is not able to produce a committee strong enough to take a community bid forward. So for the time being, it's a question of waiting and seeing. I do speak to Kevin, the landlord, on a fairly regular basis, and I know that he has that feels that there isn't likely to be a prospect of any purchase in the immediate future, and we wait and see what the next steps he takes. As I mentioned in the previous meeting, I will be continuing to try to find a way of maintaining the Swan as a pub and or as a community building of some sort. So any initiatives that anybody comes forward with, I'd always be keen to hear them.
How many people did we actually have that would sit on a committee?
At the end of the day,
One definite right from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
2 others that would, 2 that seemed to but didn't really materialise, so
Okay.
but no chairman, no one prepared to head it
To lead
and
it,
drive
yeah.
it.
Mm.
That was what was really missing.
interesting enough, we know about Betheston and the George and Roger Kelly leading that.
Surely.
Councillor Bell mentioned to me just now that the Red Lion in Biddenton had gone through a not dissimilar process of being rescued. So if anybody knows any more about that, it's probably worth asking a question or two.
Fine, I think monitoring these community run pubs is a very interesting thing to do, but most of those that I've had some connection with do rely very heavily on voluntary support and, as I say, this sort of strong momentum that at the moment we don't have within Wittersham, sadly.
John, am I allowed to ask you a question at this point? Or not?
Only if we adjourn the meeting.
See me afterwards, is that good enough?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, fine. Sports club lease, again, we don't interfere, but we do hear that things are progressing, which is good news because the lease is now expired, and so they are relying on the goodwill of John Mallet. But we do understand that things are progressing sufficiently well.
Does it mean it's progressing at a speed that's quicker than it has been for the last 10 years? Because we've been told it's progressing for at least 10 years.
Yes, Alan, and we have heard that comment from you quite often in the last 10 years.
When does the cricket season officially start?
When does what season?
When does the cricket season officially start?
Cricket, the 28th of April.
So we won't have, nothing will happen before then. And that was a point that was made some months ago. That was at least a target if they'd missed the March one.
Cricket starts before the 28th of April, but that's when the season starts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Land fronting St John the Baptist Church, we covered that really previously, and as the parish council we are going to move forward and attempt to register it as
I did a little investigation today, but only a very little one, I'd have to say. Yvonne had picked up earlier, and that's what I showed people before. There's about 15 pages in here on the old free school, which is rather interesting, which was built on that piece of land. And today I thought it was worth just having a quick look in the Kent archive, and that is the page of entries that they've got on the free school. 3 items, one of which says, because you don't get the items, you just get this sort of index. One of them is a benefaction for it. One is a lease for 21 years to the head teacher that was appointed. And the third one says regulations for the free school, which is the one that there's a picture of in this book, tiny picture. Regulations for the free school founded 1819 by the rector Reverend William Cornwallis, with abstract of endowment deed of land in Tenterden. So there's something in the Kent Library that we can get which actually is going to say in 1819 this is what it was and where it was and who it was. After that, of course, I dare say it goes dead, but at least we can we can find a document that puts that in place.
very interesting.
That was just a little thought I had today, and it's bingo.
Thank you for that. VE Day celebrations.
Caretaker scheme.
Oh yes, sorry, caretaker scheme. Yes, I covered the aspect of the ongoing relationship with Ashford Borough Council and the fact that they are prepared to fund the scheme for a further financial year, and during that we will be working towards some conclusion which may well involve winding up the scheme as it exists currently, and developing our own scheme perhaps to deal with at least our own village and possibly one or two of the others who are currently part of the caretaker scheme.
I haven't heard anything more from Ashford.
No. VE Day celebrations.
Yes, I put this on because everybody knows we've got the flag, and Dave Fletcher will hoist it at 9 o'clock. I just thought it would be nice perhaps if we invited those in the village that would like to be there, British Legion members, and perhaps the school, whether they'd like to send some youngsters up just to,
Yeah, good idea.
Yes.
it's just an idea.
No, I think that's a good idea. That the main celebrations, well, there are going to be a lot of celebrations on the Bank Holiday Monday, I think, aren't there, for villages and things like that. Generally,
I don't know,
that's not the actual
the
day.
actual day is the one that they're talking about doing everything on if you go onto the site. And they're telling you all these things that are going to happen.
Right.
Whether different villages are doing anything special, they may be.
Yes.
I don't know. And this village isn't. I think I said before that Dave Fletcher's going to get there. On that day, it's my coffee morning, so I will have that here, and I've got some bunting to put up. And
Okay.
British Legion meet in the evening, and they're going to hope to show a film, and they will invite anybody who wants to come to that as well. So we have got things happening, just
Sure.
not.
I mean, should the parish council be there when the flag is hoisted?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Would be really
I mean,
nice.
all of us, I meant.
Yes.
Well, as many as possible. Yeah. Mm.
Remind me just for my diary time and remind everybody for the time and date.
8th of May,
8th of May.
9 o'clock in the morning.
8th of
What,
May.
why is it 9 o'clock? Is that specific?
Yes,
What's the time?
everyone will be
So
over the country.
Right.
Will be, and I think probably up in London, you know, a big one.
I wonder if it's worth extending the hours of the coffee morning, so that once you've been to the flag, you can come
Then
to the
come back
coffee
here.
lounge, coffee morning.
Yes.
Mm.
and I think genuinely, if the parish council turned out in force, it would be a very
It would be very good.
good example.
Yes,
With medals.
totally agree.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is the Legion meeting is in the evening?
Yes.
Is that a meal? They normally have a meal.
They
don't
usually do, but I don't
They're
know
gonna
whether
do a
they
film.
are if they're showing a
They're doing a
film.
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 They're doing the film
That's
instead. So is that going to be at meal time? That's, I guess, what I'm saying. Will they?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It hasn't come. I haven't heard anything
Right.
officially. Just is that what they want
I
to do?
suspect, with no deprecation of the Legion, but you might wait for a long time. And if we can get some information out, you're putting out on next door on social media has proved to be very effective in the past. And I think it'd be good to at least make. Because a number of people have said to me, you know, the classic line, "What's the parish council doing for VE Day?"
Mm.
You know, it always comes back to that question, and the answer is nothing. In the sense that in terms of celebration, we've got the flag ceremony, and I agree completely with Alan about getting a good crowd out for that. And I think your idea, Sally, of opening early here and doing the kind of tea and bacon butties approach would be very fitting.
For Remembrance Day, it's more traditional to have a tincture afterwards than a
It's a little bit
Tea.
stronger.
It could be a long coffee morning.
Long day.
Hit flasks at the ready.
Do you think there's any possibility you might send out a nudge, say on the 6th of May, to remind the parish council that they're expecting?
Of course I will.
I
Yes.
think that's probably quite
And I
good.
would do the same with.
Otherwise, some of us will forget.
I would do the same with next door. I did with this meeting tonight.
Yes.
No. Well, that was really that work tonight, didn't it?
Mm.
Good.
All these
Well,
people.
excellent. Fine. We'll do that. Item 5, planning applications. This is Jonathan's. We've heard the background to it. Any further comments from anybody?
Really good any comments.
Then no one's complained as
No
yet
problems.
on the web, I don't think.
No.
No.
So happy to support?
Yeah.
yes,
Happy?
Fine. Support. The Old Corner House, Poplar Road, this is the previous antique shop. Listed building consent for internal changes. These, I've read the application, they seem very sensible. Sorry.
Could I just say that the couple that came here to the meeting earlier, they live at the top of the little drive that goes up beside the Old Corner House.
Sure.
They are concerned that if there are vehicles doing things, that they don't park in that driveway because it's their entrance exit and they could block them in or out. So whether we make a comment that there is a condition placed that
We're
Part is
talking
never.
construction vehicles.
Yes.
Doing the work.
yes,
Who
If they
owns
do-
the
Is there-
driveway?
is there-
pardon,
Who owns the
They do.
driveway?
the
The
people at
bungalow.
the top.
Right.
So it's their driveway,
Yes,
effectively.
and they're allowed to, you know, there's a whatever.
Right
of
of
way.
way.
Yes,
The challenge of putting in a condition on that is it's permanent, effectively, until it's rescinded. So it could just be the guy coming to repair the washing machine, etc. And then the alternative is parking on the road opposite a junction, which is...
yeah, but the problem is that they have been blocked in when people have been doing things like that. They've worked in the garden and they can't get out.
You would hope that, you know, this would be a matter for neighbours
Yes.
to be neighbourly about rather than a planning condition.
Okay,
That
it's just
would
I
be
did
my
say
view.
I would mention.
Yeah, no, point taken, but I agree with Paul, that's too heavy.
Yeah.
So can we agree that we support
Strong
in principle
support.
what
Yeah,
they're planning to do?
very much.
Thank you. 20th Street, two-storey row extension and changes to fenestration. This is that very pretty cottage.
That's the one that I've deferred.
Fine, it's deferred.
Yes, because on the portal, there were no neighbours listed, so I wasn't able. It only came in at the end of last week, and although I got the applicant, I didn't have any neighbours.
You said 3 neighbours, didn't it?
It said 3 neighbours, but it was
Who are the
blank.
next door neighbours out of interest? Is one of them Parry?
Parry, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to work out which,
Yes.
which building it is. That's
And opposite.
It's Peace Cottage.
Peace
Yes.
Cottage.
Peace Cottage.
It's very pretty.
And the neighbour opposite, called
Yeah.
Glebe.
Indeed. Currently absent.
Um,
Permanently.
Yes, so I've spoke to the planning officer. She felt they were there, but they weren't, so she has granted an extension. It's a fortnight, which I wouldn't normally ask for, but because they weren't there and I felt we needed to get their views, so she has granted an extension to the next meeting.
The only question I had was on the existing floor plan, they had 3 bedrooms, and on the proposed floor plan, they still only named 3 bedrooms, although they were adding a bedroom.
That's because I think one of them is a little bedroom, but it's not marked as a bedroom. It's like a box
the
room.
box room.
Right.
yeah.
So they're getting 3 proper bedrooms, and then the other bedroom, the other room
Which
wasn't
they're
a
not gonna
bedroom,
call a
and it's still not a
bedroom,
bedroom.
Fine. Next item, review the effectiveness of the system of financial internal control and the internal audit. Well, from what I have seen, we have a very effective system of financial internal control. And Yvonne, you're content with the way the internal audit is carried out. So, Jeremy, usually you take a pretty close interest in these things.
The only thing I think that we might need to kind of reserve here, because it hasn't been done, Yvonne did tell us the other day on an email, I think, that Calc has put out, there are template financial regulations. We don't use them, we have our own, which we wrote, although we attach them. But since the template has been revised, I think we probably ought to just review it to see if there's anything that we therefore ought to change before. I'm not saying there would be, but it may be a thought starter for 10 that says, no, we don't have that. And we might think about that. So while we're reviewing it, we're kind of reviewing it with 1 foot off the ground, because we've got this new template that's come in, unless you've gone through it already.
Well, no, I haven't. However, we do have the month to do it, because it is one of the items on our meeting next month
Next week, yeah.
to review the financial
Yeah.
regs.
So, okay.
So that's, I need to get it looked at before then, so we can see whether there
Sure.
is.
See if it is something we ought to think of in our terms of
Yes.
our own fin regs.
Yeah.
You might also get some feedback, might you, from your fellow clerks in the same situation. Anyway, that's fine. Correspondence. Lloyds have given us notice of moving to a community account with a monthly charge. I think we understand the reason for this, and the charge is not that significant. So
£4.25 a month.
yeah, but there is value in retaining that account, I believe, mainly because of the security.
Well, we have the yes, we have a safety deposit.
Safety deposit, that's the word.
Where the deeds for different places are kept.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing. We would then have to find out what to do with them if we did close. It's useful as far as I'm concerned because I can, any checks that we do get, not that we have many, but I can bank them via the post office. Whereas if it's Unity Trust, I have to go to a NatWest bank to do that, and there isn't one in Rye.
Sure. Anyway, we're informed of that and happy with it.
Yeah.
And we note the reducing interest rate on the Unity Trust Bank instant access account. That's not a total surprise in the current circumstances. We've received a thank you for the donation to Outlook and Oxney. Very nice to have Koos here, and our thanks to him and your name,
Monica.
Yeah, for the work they do on Outlook, which is hugely valuable. Mazars, our external auditors, have given us a date of 30th of June. Then we were informed by Greg and Kate of the damage to the Ewan Lamb post sign. They were doing their annual maintenance and consider that there's evidence of both potential catapult and airgun pellet damage to that, which is something we should be aware of and make Darren Laker aware of, but that's a note from Greg, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we record the fact that it's occurred, and our sympathy to them for having to deal with it. We have renewed our Culk annual subscription.
No, we need to
approve
yes.
that we are renewing it at the sum of £516 plus VAT. I think we all feel that they offer us a valuable and cost-effective service.
How much has it gone up by? Because they've changed their calculation system. It was due to go up a bit. Was it 400 and something before?
I can find out.
Oh, don't worry.
But I haven't got it here. And I have added Kenton, Surrey and Sussex Area Ambulance. I've had a thank you for the donation too.
Fine.
So I thought it's easier just to pop it in here rather than hang on to the next meeting.
Report on the caretaker service, anything particular?
I don't think there's anything new apart from the fact that everywhere's looking lovely.
Looking terrific. Thank you, Al, for that work.
Yes, cemetery too is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's got the usual problem of the flowers that grow and the grass grows as well, and then you've got what do you cut and what do you leave, and we get the same problem every year, but at the moment it looks lovely.
Good. Finance monthly transaction statements, you've had copies of those. Nothing unusual as far as I can see. Anything you want to draw our attention to particularly?
No, obviously I had to transfer some money at the end of the month.
Sure.
For out of the Unity Trust. Otherwise, I think it's, and I had the hire of the hall for a year, which I had to let them know, and they let me have an invoice. I think that's all. I'm really sorry that I haven't had the Lloyd's bank statement, you'll notice that I haven't put the R on that column because I haven't reconciled it. I have actually done all the figures for the end of year. I'm happy with it, but until obviously I've got the statement, I can't prove that. So the figure you got at the bottom of this is what I believe it is,
Surely.
but I haven't got that final statement to confirm it. So we can't do the next 3 items, although they are prepared.
They are prepared.
Mm.
So you'll present them at the next
Yes.
meeting? Yes.
So if you wouldn't mind.
No, that's fine.
Not just having the gap on.
So in full?
Yes, please. And the date, please.
Still the 8th.
And the next one, which is the caretaker scheme, which there wasn't quite so much on that.
Yeah.
That's really straightforward. Still the 8th.
Okay. Planning items considered since the last meeting. Green Acres on Rose Hill. We've agreed to support that. Decisions received. Land between townhouse. This is the large development. As I stated previously, planning permission's been granted. Same with Ellison Cottages, number 2, number 6, and the Smitings, Poplar Road, and 3 Buds Cottages, Buds Lane. They've all been granted. Open spaces, any comments?
Nothing new.
Nothing new. Public rights of way. Anything new on this?
Only that Sally and I are going to check out this new diversion
Okay.
on Thursday.
Okay. Highways. Nothing.
It was mentioned in the last meeting, the rather alarming collapse of the road opposite the Lovejoy's farm entrance, or, by that. And I confess I hadn't noticed it until it was mentioned. And since then, every time I go by, I'm thinking, is it my imagination or is this just getting worse? And I'm happy to report that. Is it? But it doesn't. It's been. I thought it might have been. I just want to double check. And the other thing that's been mentioned several times is the bend by the Swan and Mervyn too. I mean, the patches are disappearing fast, and that's been mentioned by several cyclists because it obviously affects them more going into a big hole. Has that been brought to the attention, or do we need to?
No, fine. I'll take a photo because that's the best thing is to take photos.
Would you mind? That would be really helpful. Thank you.
And we've got a road closure coming up, haven't we?
You have indeed.
On the 14th.
Next
Yes,
Monday.
next Monday, Tuesday.
4 days.
It says up to 3 days.
Oh, does it, sorry?
So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
A real closure, or is it just a wind up?
No, they say it's a road closure, but who knows? It's underground cable. It's UK Power Networks.
And Back Street, or Swan Street, is closed. Tonight when I drove by, it was road closed and there were guys in reflective jackets and hats and vans and what have you.
Don't know about
At the
that.
top again.
At the top, yeah, by the pub.
No, because if it's an emergency one, I don't get told until after the event because they can.
Well, they can.
As you
That's the
know,
whole issue.
utilities can close it whenever
Just-
they like
yeah.
without, and then they tell KCC.
Yeah.
KCC check out the diversion route, and then it gets reported, and then I find out.
Well, Alan, your diversion, I think, is right via Hastings. You go to get here.
Yes, but there are
Set off
times,
in good time.
there are times when it's more or less impossible to get home.
That's a good excuse.
On the minutes of the annual parish meeting that we received, jogged my memory, because there was about the white gates would be part of the planning application for the top. But I thought the other end, we were going to do that as part of the 40-mile-an-hour limit.
Well, we were hoping that we would, by the time they got sort of getting to that stage, we would have heard about Stocks Road, so then we'd know whether we were going to have 2
Right.
or 1. So that's why nothing was done. But now that we know that that has been granted, the chances are it will be the S106 that we could get. So I've now got to get back to,
That's for that end, but what about the,
Oh, yes,
the
well-
other end?
now we've got to decide with him as to whether we go ahead or whether he wants to wait until we do 2 together.
Right.
But we're going to have to pay for it. This is the thing, that end we were hoping that gets paid for.
Mm.
By the
This
106, yeah.
tentative we've got to pay for.
Do we know how much that would cost for the other end?
Not offhand.
Well, they usually whack out nowadays a design cost
Oh yes, there will
of
be.
1,000 approximately. I mean, how difficult it is to design
Something
5
that's
slabs
already
of vertical
designed.
white wood
Yeah.
with Welcome to Wittersham, given the fact that it's pretty standard.
Mm.
The other thing I was asked was, as you go past us in towards Cooper's Corner, the sign on the left, which is showing a sharp curve, bend or what have you, has slipped down halfway down the pole and is half obscured by the hedge. I don't know if that falls within your remit, Alf, with a spanner. So it was a rhetorical question, so I wasn't expecting an answer. Can I leave that in your good hands? I mean, I did actually mention, when the guys came to put the new signs up, I said, do you have a spanner? And he said, well, yeah. I said, well, do you mind just pushing it up? No, I can't do that, mate. It's not on the job order. No, I wasn't surprised.
I'm sure it'd be much quicker to do it ourselves.
Yes.
Well, oh yes, yeah, well it is part of what we would do.
You live close by.
Well, yeah. I think it takes a robust. And the nuts are all rusted out.
And the long light evenings.
Just, I could turn it the other way, so to where you are.
Okay, that deals with highways, cemetery, churchyard. Again, we've covered the biodiversity issue.
Yeah, the churchyard was being mown this afternoon.
Well done.
Found.
Right, Jeremy, would you like to give us a resume of the
Quick run through
Yes, sure.
from 10 days ago. We've already heard about the police taking action on catapults. This was the report from the inspector, he didn't come himself. For Ashford, action is taken on the use of catapults as a weapon, if they can find that. And a 16-year-old was arrested after killing seagulls with a catapult, so this is further than it used to be. They did also acknowledge in that report that it's a national issue now. It's got sort of national attention, although we've seen it in Wittersham. E-scooters are also being seized. They're sometimes running campaigns, I think, on some particular place, and they get a dozen or so at a time. So they're doing that. The local plan update, this is plan for 2043, I think, to replace plan 2030. Excuse me. The first draft is going to go to the ABC Cabinet in July, then it will come out for public consultation, and the whole caravan will move on again, or start moving again. The list of sites which were submitted, when people say, can I have housing on my field, please? That list of sites that were submitted 2 or 3 years ago, which include 2, I think, in Wittersham from memory. One is the one that's now been consented for the 20 houses, and the other is the one by the Meadows for 40 houses. They'll go out to consultation in the summer at community events, as they call them, meaning that people can go along and look at the plans and write a note about why they don't like it. The government is requiring Ashford to continue with their plan 2043, even though they'll be reorganised in the middle of it, but they're supposed to be carrying on. The devolution white paper from last December, you heard a bit about it from Councillor Mike Hill this evening. When it came out in 2024, the principal authorities were supposed to put themselves forward if they wanted to be in the first group. Kent did, they got knocked back. We don't know now. They've put in an interim proposal, which I haven't looked at, I'm afraid. It went in a week or 2 ago, and they've got to do a final one now for November. They'll be saying that they want either 3 or 4 new unitaries. I'm not sure which one they've gone for. 3 is pretty horrendous. They are very big. If you think of the whole of Kent and Medway being divided into 3, sheer distances and time is a problem. On the other hand, if you have 3, they can all be bigger than 500,000 population, which is what the government wants. Whereas if it's 4, since we've only got 1.9 million, it doesn't add up. Unfortunately, because we're not in the pilot, and I can't claim to have understood this properly by the briefing we got from the Chief Executive of Calc, if Kent puts in a proposal in November for November 25 and then moves forward, they will be included in the reorganisation coming along later, but they don't get picked up in the devolution. I didn't understand this, but apparently that means no extra powers and no extra money. And that seemed to cut across what Mike said, so I really don't know. I wasn't sure if that would mean that we did get a new mayor and a strategic authority or not. Mike said we would. So again, frankly, I think it's muddle and confusion all around, and no one really knows. And until ministers take decisions aren't made. Something that's potentially of interest to us peripherally, Ashford is concerned, I think rightly. All the country area of Ashford is in parishes like us, but Ashford town never was until about 10 or 12 years ago, and it was divided in 4, and all 4 were given the opportunity of becoming parish, although they would be called community councils, but it's the same as us, but a bit bigger. And 2 of them voted for it, and 2 of them voted against it, because they said, well, that'll just mean more council tax. So 2 of them are unparished. The worry now is that with unitaries being vast, you've really got to have a parish council, or a bigger parish council, or a town council, because otherwise you haven't got anyone within 50 miles, or whatever. But at the same time, Ashford is a town, and it really needs to have a town council covering all of it. When it had Ashford Borough Council sitting there, they could be a de facto town council. But without Ashford Borough Council sitting there, to have 4 parishes dividing a town up doesn't make sense. You know, whose high street is it or whatever. So they're now seriously looking at reorganising that. They have to go through procedures with the Local Government Boundary Commission and all the rest of it, but they can go through procedures to say, okay, we'll form a town council with permission and wind the 2 unparished and the 2 parished areas all into a town council. That will be logical for Ashford long term. It also preserves the name Ashford, otherwise Ashford disappears, doesn't exist.
The leader's mentioned that on occasion, hasn't he, about Ashford actually losing its identity.
Yes, indeed.
Exactly. It's divvied up.
But also, I mean, the identity I think is very emotionally important, but administratively they really need to have a town. After all, Tenterden has a town, Chippenham has a town, Yeovil has a town, whatever, you go around, they've all got town councils, even if they're in a bigger unitary or a bigger, just a bigger borough. Interestingly, just a little aside, Cornwall became unitary about 10 or 20 years ago under a previous system. So all the old, and it's just one unitary for the whole of Cornwall. But they've also got now, because of the town councils, Truro, Redruth, whatever, they've got 4 of the biggest precepting town councils in the country. Because they all previously were boroughs. By the by. Asset transfers will be on the agenda, we were told, so start thinking about assets that might be transferable. They need to be sustainable in the long run, you need to think about the money and all the rest of it. Now, obviously one asset transfer on our mind will be the land that you're already talking to Ashford about. The second one, in a different category, don't forget, windmill. But that's one that obviously someone's going to think. Okay. The new unitaries, as Mike said, wouldn't be expected to take the role until 2028 because we're not on the priority programme, and even that might be ambitious. So it's not going to bite us soon, but it's going to be a massive amount of work and disruption. Okay, next thing, and the last one, is Kent Acre replacing ACRK. Paul knows all about ACRK because he used to be a trustee. Kent Acre now exists, it's a charity, it's registered, it's running with an interim chief executive. They're keen to expand the village hall advisory service, which used to be done, but expand it to do other rural organisations as well that may need the same support. Anything rural, sports clubs, for instance, conflict, governance, legal structures. They also want to offer scenarios for resilience planning. We've talked about emergency planning lately. This is resilience planning, of which emergency planning is a plank, but not the whole thing. How to improve resilience under different topics. It's not all about flood risk, there's more than that. They've been piloting a resilience planning approach, which includes emergency planning, piloting a cluster of 4 parishes in West Kent. Happens to be the parishes where the chief executive lives, naturally, but I mean, it makes it easier for her to do. They've been doing it for 7 months. The cluster benefit is it brings in more resources. You've got the opportunity of bringing more people in from 4 parishes to work on a plan that they can all support. The emergency side is now ready to go and going out to consultation with residents. The organisation that Paul was trustee of had 200 village halls in membership out of about 300, so she's hoping to get that again or better. It'll be £150 per hall for the 25-26, which I think they used to pay at least that much, or give or take, before. And when the offer comes out to parish councils, it'll be £150 a year for parish councils to be a member as well. In the past, both Wittersham Parish Council and the Village Hall were members, and I would hope that that would happen again. There were other things that were discussed, but that was what I thought was of interest to us potentially.
Thank you so much, Chairman. That's very kind. Fine. Date of the annual meeting of the Parish Council next year, 13th of May. For information, further information, an ICCM webinar on the 27th of March was attended by Yvonne. Right, I have nothing further to add. Does anybody wish to raise any other business?
You said next year's meeting, you meant next month's meeting.
The annual. It's the annual meeting. It's the annual meeting.
Yeah, but you said next year.
I beg your pardon.
Next month, you mean?
Well, beginning of the next year for the parish council.
Yes. Fine. Thank you. Yes. Okay, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much to those of you who stayed the course. There's still a bit of wine and food if you want to refresh yourselves for the journey home. Johnny, you wanted to work? You wanted to work, do you? Or no?